So I'm recording
Good afternoon, everyone.
now. Okay. Uh,
I'm Jaris. I'm Jaris Rogers-Wright. Hi, Madaya. Please, I hope you're doing well.
I am. Thank you so much for
Okay.
joining. Um, we're few in the call, but hopefully everyone else will join, and I'm sure that people are going to be watching the recording. So thank you again for accepting our invitation and coming to speak on ending period poverty. So without further ado, the stage is yours. So go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. So first and foremost, I am Jaris Rogers-Wright, and I'm from Sierra Leone. In case you don't know, I'm a Sierra Leonean, and I'm someone who is
I'm so sorry. I thought you were a
I'm
guy.
very moved. Really? Oh no, I'm from Sierra Leone, please. Just
Okay.
that I'm currently staying in Ghana.
Okay.
Yes. So I currently volunteer at an organization known as NEJ Global Foundation. And I am passionate about social impact. So I see myself as a social impact enthusiast, someone who is interested in bringing about positive change wherever they find themselves. Anyways, as Mada already said, today we'll be looking at ending period poverty. And this is our presentation outline. We'll discuss what period poverty is, the causes and effects of period poverty, importance of ending period poverty, ways of ending period poverty, and then we'll move on to questions and answers. Mada, please, can you see the screen I'm sharing?
Yes, yes, I can.
Okay, please, thank you very much. So we'll start. What is period poverty? I think the phrase in itself is something not a lot of people have come across. So I remember while I was preparing my slide and engaging with my family members, I'll ask them, have you heard of period poverty before? And the honest answer I got was no. I think myself, it was, I think last year that I got to know more about period poverty. So let's get into it. So I think as ladies, as girls here, most of us have seen our menstrual period. Most of us have started experiencing period in itself. So we know what menstruation is. Now, what is period poverty? We know what period is. We know what poverty is. Simply put, it is the inability to access some of the basic menstrual products that you need during menstruation. Period poverty is not only limited to the menstrual products such as maybe pads, tissues, and other sanitary products. It also is the in access to clean water, just the basic facilities you need to keep yourself clean during your period. It is also the in access to what? Education, because not a lot of people know about period poverty. So, not having access to education is also period poverty. So, yes, so that's why I did the diagram as you can see on the slides with X. So, no access to sanitary products, no access to hygiene and sanitation products, and then no access to water and other sanitary to the definition as given by UN Women. According to UN Women, period poverty refers to the inability to afford and access menstrual products, sanitation and hygiene facilities, as well as education and awareness to manage menstrual health, which is literally what we have just discussed. It affects millions of women and girls globally. Surprisingly, research shows that in Africa, 1 in 10 girls miss school because they lack menstrual hygiene products. Because I think most of us have access to these products. So we cannot fathom that there are people out there who cannot even afford it, who cannot even access it. But then just because of not having access to these products, people miss school. And there are lots of after effects, there are lots of um, um, downplay of not going to school, missing school just because you can't have a pad, for example. So my question now is why? Why is there this problem of affordability and accessibility? Mada, do you want to answer this question for us? Why do you think we have an accessibility and affordability problem with regards to the menstrual health hygiene products and sanitary products?
Okay, so I think it's because people aren't educated. Aside education, people basically feel like it's not priority for some reason. Um, Maybe there's money on ground and the money is not enough, so they would put scale of preference to it and get what they need at that moment, like more than a more than basic menstrual toolkits. So that's why.
Product. Yeah. Okay, please, thank you very much. That's a very important point shared, because menstruation is not at the top of the list of a lot of people. It's not important to them. Simply put, it's not important. And if something is not important to you, you won't put measures in place to solve whatever issues or problems are associated with it. So that moves us to the causes of period poverty. So, period poverty exists because one, we lack basic amenities such as water, public toilets, etc., that women need to manage their period hygienically and with dignity. Um, let's look at the provinces, for example. There are people out there who, because they do not have menstrual pads, for example, they use makeshift pads. Maybe they'll use cloths, they'll use papers, and this is unhygienic. And then let's say they use cloths, for example. If you're using a cloth in place of a sanitary pad, you have to wash the pad. But then here lies the case where they do not have water. How can they manage their period hygienically and with dignity? It's going to be a problem. And next, we talk about government taxes on menstrual products. So currently in Ghana, menstrual products are seen as luxury goods. And the tax on it is so heavy that it has become expensive. Back in the day, pads used to be about, I think, 7 cedis, 8 cedis. Currently, it's about 25 cedis just for a pad. It's really crazy how there are people out there, they don't even have what they can eat. Let alone talk of buying pad at 25 cedis. That's a lot of money. So the taxes make menstrual products increasingly difficult to access, especially by low income earners and people in underprivileged communities. And then we have cultural beliefs. People will be wondering, how is cultural belief a cause of period poverty? I think one of the issues we spoke about, period poverty, is the in access towards education and awareness about menstrual hygiene, menstrual health, and the whole process. So there are people who believe that when ladies are on their periods, first and foremost, they are excluded. They should be excluded from a lot of activities. You are deemed as unclean. And in our local communities, in our African communities, it's not something people really talk about. So the other day, my cousin was telling me about a friend who, the family did not know that the younger sister, had started her period, because they don't talk about it, they don't encourage her to talk about it. And the girl was really shy. So she kept it to herself. I think it was after a month that they came to realize that, oh, she has started her menstrual period. Can you imagine? Just because menstruation is seen as a taboo, it discourages open conversation about the topic. And this leads towards lack of awareness, lack of education, and it affects us. Lastly, we talk about inadequate support for women's rights organizations. There are lots of women's rights organizations out there. They are trying to solve this problem of lack of education, lack of awareness. Like the organization I work at, we try to engage and embark on period awareness projects. But then these organizations, though they are really trying their best, they also lack funding, because as my dad said earlier, people don't think it is important, and obviously if you don't think it's important, you won't fund such initiatives. I think we have to encourage funding for women's rights organizations to be able to stop period poverty. Next, we'll move on to the effects of period poverty. um, Not having hygienic facilities. Obviously, first of all, in this world, there's nothing that doesn't have an effect. If you have an exam and you do not study, you know what the consequence is going to be. If you are hungry and you do not eat, you know what the consequence is going to be. So for every cause, there is an effect. So we'll be looking at the effects of period poverty. So from the image, you can see maybe this green thing, it looks like disease, infection. So you have infections, you have mental health problems. These are all effects of period poverty. But again, before I move on to the effects I've listed down, my dear friend who is currently available, what effects do you think come from period poverty? You can unmute yourself.
Um, an effect. I think one of the major effects is stigmatization. I think because when there's a lack in basic menstrual products or menstrual kits, maybe you can't go to school, and then should I say stigmatization? I mean, like, you can't go to school, you can't go to work, you can't you really can't do anything for that day. You have to stay home, you have to maybe hide or just be somewhere first till after your period. That's what I think.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Stigmatization is indeed one of the major issues out there when we talk about the effects of period poverty. Because as we said earlier, we spoke of the whole menstrual process being a taboo. So obviously, I'll be so shy. I don't want to interact with other people. I'll just and if you're being stigmatized, I believe it's going to affect you mentally as well because you'll be depressed. You'll be depressed, so it'll affect you negatively. Anyways, these are the some of the effects I wrote down. Effects of period poverty. Period poverty leads to poor mental health. So, as Matthias said, stigmatization. The shame surrounding menstruation leads to low self esteem and other issues that might lead to depression. So, we should avoid shaming people. We should encourage open conversations on the issue of menstruation. Then there's absence from school or work. So I think the second or third slide spoke about how 1 in 10 girls. So if most people they see their period for about 5 days. So if you collate all these days in the year, that's about a month and a half. So imagine girls missing school for a month and a half. Imagine ladies missing school and work rather for a month and a half. So with the students, for example, it's going to affect their academic performance. Some might even say, you know what, I can't do this anymore. They're going to drop out. If we have more dropouts, it's going to affect the economy of the country. We're going to have more people depending on the already little workforce. It's going to pressure us if we have more dropouts. If we have also a lot of risk of getting diseases, your you're going to be exposed to infections associated with unhealthy practices like using paper, like using tissue, like using cloth, and not having water. Obviously, if you do not have water, you can't wash well, you can't manage yourself well. So, obviously, you'll be exposed to a lot of infectious diseases. Now, we're moving on to the importance of ending period poverty. Why is ending period poverty important? So we've spoke about a lot of effects such as the stigmatization, how it's going to lead to school dropout, how it will affect the economy. So if we have looked at these effects, why then do we think it is important to end period poverty? First on my list, I have reduced health risks. When we end period poverty, we promote menstrual health and it prevents all the infections associated with unhygienic practices, unhygienic alternatives that are attached or associated with the makeshift pads such as paper, towels, etc., etc. And then it ends stigmatization surrounding menstruation. So if we encourage people to talk about menstrual cycle. We encourage education on the topic. We encourage awareness. We go out there and we raise awareness. We're going to promote menstrual health education. We're going to dismantle the harmful stereotypes that affects people, that leads to depression, that leads to shame. We're going to break down each and every barrier that has been put up by our belief system, by our culture. So, yes, and then we will reduce absenteeism and dropout rates because I won't be missing school if I have good water supply. I won't be missing school if I have pads, tampons, maybe sanitizers, wipes, and all the products I need. I'll be focused on my education. I won't have to be worried that, oh, if I go to school, maybe I'm going to mess myself up and people will be laughing at me. No, none of that will happen. So we'll increase the effectiveness and efficiency of of ladies who go to work. The girls can focus on their schoolwork and they'll improve performance and they will not turn out to be a burden on society. Will boost national efficiency by ensuring women contribute to nations' productivity and fully participate by not missing out on work. What else? So there are lots of girls who, when on their periods and they do not have access to menstrual products, they'll go to people like, oh, please, if you give me money to buy pad, I can do this and this and this for you. It opens up a room for what? Exploitation of women and girls. So some women and girls engage in transactional activities to enable them afford a basic necessity. And honestly, when they engage in transactional activities, let's say it's sex, for example, you give me sex, I have sex with you and you give me money for pads. By the time you are finished and you do not take the right measures, you are even pregnant. Forget about the period, the parts that we don't have, you're pregnant, that's another wahala on its own. Exactly, that's another problem on its own. But then, if we solve the issue of period poverty, we are going to prevent exploitation. And lastly, we promote gender equality. We encourage gender justice and the full FULL participation of women and girls in all activities. No, there'll be no exclusion this that, oh no, ladies this, ladies that, because as it is, they don't even want to include us in a lot of things. So imagine having period poverty as another issue against us. But then if we solve the issue of period poverty, then we promote gender justice, we promote gender equality. So far, I want to ask if do you have any questions or contributions before I move on to ways of ending period poverty? Any contributions, please? Hmm. No. Okay. Thank you very much for listening so far. So, uh, ways of ending period poverty. I did it in a threefold way because the government has their role to play. Individuals, we have our role to play, and then we have women's rights and advocacy organizations who also have their roles to play. Now, we start with government action. For there to be an end to the issue of period poverty, we need the government to come in. Like they play a very important role. So let me make an example. Currently in Ghana, there's this initiative of donating pads to school children, to school girls, which I think is a very good initiative because now girls won't have an excuse to be like, oh, please, I was on my period. That's why I didn't come to school. I was on my period. That's why I missed the test and all of that. So the government has to go about a policy reform, eliminate the taxes on menstrual products. Like, why target as a luxury good when it is a basic necessity? It is so essential for us ladies. So if the taxes on menstrual products are eliminated, then it will be much more affordable. Not everybody has money, Charlie. And then we have to include menstrual health education in the national education curriculum because these things mostly are not taught in schools because of the taboo and the stigma around it. It's not taught in schools, but then by bringing it into the curriculum, we we increase knowledge and awareness on the issue. We eliminate, in some sense, we eliminate period poverty. because now obviously people know about it. They'll know how to manage themselves. They'll know how, like, if you're a boy, for example, you know how you can be of help to avoid stigmatization, to avoid, because most boys, I remember, I think it was in May, went to a particular district in Accra, and the girls are saying that, oh, the boys will be laughing at them because they do not know much about this. They're not educated. So for them, it's funny. And if you are laughing at girls, obviously the girl wouldn't want to come to school. But then if this is in our educational curriculum, it takes out these little nuances that may not seem much, but they are a lot. They contribute a lot to the issue we are facing currently. And then we look at, after policy reform, there's infrastructural development. There's the need for more public toilets, public facilities. There's the need for flowing water. This is not usually a problem in urban areas, but it is a major issue in rural areas. So the government should build hygiene and sanitation facilities. They should ensure proper waste disposal. And lastly, budget allocation. So Madaya spoke of um was it Madaya who spoke about the government involvement, the importance, because if it's not high on your list, exactly, you won't pay much attention to it. So now we're bringing it to the forefront. We're bringing government attention to the issue of period poverty. That's, please, this is an important issue. Give us money. We need money to be allocated to the issues of period poverty, and then we'll have limited problems with regards to accessing these menstrual health products for girls and ladies in our countries. Next, we move to individual and community action. This, I'll leave it to the audience because we are part of the community. So what do you think? What role do you think you can play in ending period poverty? Christy Rogers-Wright, please, I don't know if you can hear me, but if you can hear me, please, what role do you think you can play as an individual in ending period poverty? Madaya, you are next, so please be aware. Christy, we can't hear you, please. Your mic is muted. So I think, Madaya, whilst she is sorting out, you can go on. Yes, please.
Okay, sorry, what was the question again? How we can contribute, right, to end period poverty?
As individuals, yeah.
I think we can speak to government officials, or even private sectors, because there are some private sectors that have enough resources, enough finance, or enough what should I say? Enough people to begin to move into schools where, because when you mentioned that pads are shared in schools for girls, I wish it was here as well. I don't think I've heard of any primary school here in Nigeria where girls have where primary schools have pads to share to girls. So I think as individuals, we have to, maybe if you're someone that you're fortunate enough to have two or three other um menstrual hygiene products, you should look out for your fellow girls. You should be the one to, I mean, in the small space you have, you might not be able to speak to any government official or begin to make policies, but in the small space you have, look around. Are there girls that seem like they're not comfortable during a certain time of the month? What can you do? What can you contribute to them? So that is what I think is a way we can support the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. You made an important point there. Because, yeah, as a girl, let's say you already have more than enough for yourself. Maybe you come from a rich family. You could talk to your parents that, oh, okay, can I have just maybe this amount of money? And then you could go and donate. We should encourage, I think we should encourage ourselves to donations. Encourage yourself to donate to maybe an orphanage, a school. You could bring yourself, girls, we like spoiling ourselves. Me, for example, I go out with my friends, right? I go for boba tea and stuff like that. So if we have money to spoil, I think we can put a little aside, even if it's not monthly, maybe just save something small each month, and maybe at the end of the year you can embark on like some big donation. That you might think it's nothing, but then that little act of yours goes a very long way. So thank you so much for that, Madaya. Next, Athor, I think I'm calling on you to give your own opinion. How do you think individuals and community can contribute to ending period poverty?
Okay, thank you very much. I think as an individual, I am now, because of this seminar or whatever, it helps to reiterate the importance of hygiene during period. And I think for me, what I think individuals should be doing is how to send the message across, because people don't really give it the importance it deserves. I think the message has to go across. Its importance has to be reiterated, and possibly target some of these primary schools, because I believe girls get to that age, probably just after primary school and so on and so forth, and see how we can bring in the parents. And I think mostly when we talk about these things, it's just women that are involved. But if we can incorporate the fathers or the brothers, or the guys as well, I think it's going to get the importance it needs. And then you can, if the importance has been reiterated, we've all seen how important it is as you are outlining now during this program. I think it can be easier to be able to mobilize funds to actually help these guys. But I think we should start exactly where what you're doing now, how to pass the message across. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was trying to look for something, but I can't locate it because he mentioned something very important, which is involving the parents. I think it was last month I joined a session by Amnesty International Ghana, where they invited some government officials on the same topic of period poverty. And I think one of the officials spoke about how the government is trying to include not only boy, boys, not only girls rather, but also boys, and then the parents of the girls. They're including everybody in the conversation because, as Arthur said, nobody should be left out. Now is the time to bring everybody on board to awareness through maybe activities that we are even this event we're even having is a step in the right direction. So if we can have more of it, that will do, and it will go a long way in ending period poverty. Then, as an individual, you can support or volunteer. We have time on our hands as young people, so I think I took volunteering very seriously last year, and the impact so far is really great because you may think you are not doing much. Like we always think we're not doing much, but this act of volunteerism is very important. You're reaching out to people in your life you never think or it never crossed your mind that you would reach out to. So volunteer in women's rights organizations or organizations that organize such activities, such projects. And I'm sure that will go a long way in ending period poverty. Then on your own, challenge the stigma. We have social media at our disposal. A lot of us are on TikTok, a lot of us are on X. So we can use those social sorry, those social media platforms to put the message out there. And lastly, women's rights and advocacy organizations, they are charged with what? Education and advocacy. They're charged with local donation and distribution. They're charged with policy advocacy. These women's rights and advocacy organizations are the ones who reach out to the government and push for policy reforms, which is very important in ending period poverty. So I started with the quotes from UN Women. So I'm going to end with a quote from UN Women. And it says, period poverty is a policy and budget issue. So all we need to do is to know that this is an important problem that we face. That it doesn't only affect girls as we have seen here. It's in the long run, it affects the nation. So if we can come to that awareness, then obviously we're going to make policy reforms. We're going to put money out there for the issue to be stopped. So by making menstrual products free or affordable, ensuring wider access to safe sanitation facilities in schools and workplaces, changing social norms to reverse stigma, we can put a stop to period poverty. So